But we want to give you this framework of what external success is as a coach. And primarily, this is marketing. That's what is going to make your business work. I think some people have like a failure limit. I'll go all in after my dreams as long as I don't have to fail more than 3 times. The amount of certified coaches without clients is shocking. And I don't say that to make fun of people. It's just that getting a degree in the coaching world doesn't lead to clients necessarily. In this video, we're going to dive into and dissect the 6 core coaching skills that you need to be successful as a coach. Almost everybody is looking for the last 3, but they're jumping over the first 3. And in all my years helping coaches and all my experience over 15 years in this industry, we made over $6 million. We made all these mistakes. What I've realized is that the first 3 are by far the most important. So if you try to jump over these, you essentially have almost no chance of being successful as a coach. Now, make sure you watch all the way to the end, because what came out of the conversation about what most of us are looking for versus what's looking for us will make such a big distinction, not just in your mindset, but in the financial success of your business. All right, let's talk about success. Nobody signs up to be a coach or really to do anything in life to be unsuccessful. And obviously we want to be successful in whatever way that looks, whether it's tangible success or intangible success. And I think a lot of people want to become a coach because they want the freedom and flexibility, and they want to make the money, and they want to make an impact, and all that stuff is powerful. And I've been coaching, as you know, over 15 years, been doing this work with coaches over a decade. And I think there are 6 main elements of success, and 3 of them are internal and 3 of them are external. So let's talk about the 3 internal first. And I think it's critical that we start here, because these are the things that most people jump over. These are not the things that most people are trying to get a shortcut to, because I think most people are trying to get that tangible, sexy, like I want the testimonial version of success, right? Because everybody hears about the testimonies, and I made $40,000 in 2 days or whatever it is. And that's totally fine to want all those things. There's nothing wrong with wanting money, and there's nothing wrong with wanting all the tangible success pieces, but you can't jump over foundation. And that's what the internal game really is. It's about foundation, because if you learn how to market, you learn how to sell, and you learn how to price, and you learn how to do funnels and all that stuff, but you don't have the internal foundation, then essentially you're marketing a product that doesn't work, or you're marketing a product that doesn't believe in itself. And when we are the product as coaches, then obviously we've got to have this internal congruence. And I think a lot of people are trying to find their confidence from the rules, right? When somebody says this, how should I respond? Or when somebody asks this question, how am I going to answer it? Or what are the tools of coaching, or what are the exercises that I need to bring into just about any situation that can help somebody get over whatever it is that you want to help people get over? And I think that's an extremely myopic, like borderline childish view of maybe not childish, I don't want that connotation, but it's a juvenile view of what coaching really is, because we're dealing with humans and we're dealing with all kinds of different variables. And I think we do a huge disservice when we expect people to just fall in line, or we expect them to follow some set of rules that we bring into a conversation, or we bring in to a coaching package. And I also believe, and I know you believe this too, Michelle, that when we truly study humanity and we study behavior and we go through the work ourselves, it does get simpler, but it's only getting simple through the process of action, getting in motion, trying a bunch of things, proving to yourself that certain questions will lead to certain kind of results or certain kind of breakthroughs and all this kind of stuff. So I think when we try to microwave our breakthroughs, when we try to shortcut our success, we prolong the process, and we actually get into our own heads, and we create or trigger and expose a lot of the fears that we already have, that our intellect, that our ego is carrying around. So these 3 core coaching skills are foundationally critical. And then we can get to the external skills for sure. Is there anything you want to add to that before I dive into the 3 coaching skills?
I love it. Core coaching.
It's co-coaching.
Co-coaching. Yes.
Right. Don't mess it up.
Thank you. I'll try not to. When you were talking, I was getting so fired up because the way I was holding on to it is like, these things are the fuel, right? This is the stuff that's going to drive the engine that we're trying to build. So it doesn't even matter if we have this beautiful engine with all of this, whatever things engines have and horsepower, and just it's beautiful and shiny and it looks amazing if there's nothing to drive it. And that's what I think of when I think of these 3 elements.
Yeah, it's a good point. We got to have fuel because the entrepreneurial journey is not easy. It's not a smoothly paved path. And most people don't have that kind of fuel. I think the first piece is because they don't have the confidence, really. And I think a lot of people think confidence will come from a certification, that if you get some letters behind your name, which makes sense because that's essentially what we're taught in the academic world, right? I go to school, I pass a test, I get my degree, and then people hire me because I have a degree. And I don't know that I've ever really thought about it. Like very rarely, I mean, it's been a long time since I went on a job interview, but out of college, I had this criminal justice degree and I guess I was put on a probation kind of period, but I got hired based on my degree and based on a job application, essentially, and an interview. I don't even remember if I had an interview. I probably did, but I was mostly, I guess, qualified for the job because of my degree. And I get it. Like, I'm not in any way saying that's not the way it should be. I mean, I busted my butt for that degree. I paid a lot of money and went to school for 4 years and got that degree. And obviously there's a level of trust that my first employers had in the degree. And so we think that that's the way it works all over the place. And that's just not the way it works in the coaching world, where there are no bumper rails. There are no entities out there that have any kind of legal, what's the word I'm looking for? Like legal agency, right? There's no organization that says you can't become a coach until you pass this particular qualification, or until you pass this test, or until you prove your competency, et cetera, because there's no legal board in the whole industry. So we're kind of flying blind. And when we try to apply this idea of certification or academic degree to the entrepreneurial world, especially in the coaching world, we're going to have a rude awakening. I think, first of all, people are going to continue putting too much emphasis on graduating from a program.
Right.
And just because you graduate from a program doesn't mean anybody's going to pay you. This isn't like the world of corporate qualifications, where if you have that certification, somebody's going to hire you. Individuals will hire you as a coach if they believe you can help them. And that's really all they care about. And they don't know about these certification programs anyway. They don't know what the letters beyond the name even means most of the time. So it's not about certification, it's about certainty. And so this first piece is not just certainty in the process, but certainty in yourself and certainty in the essence of transformation, right? Like, you've got to be convicted in the certainty of transformation. And when you're convicted in that kind of certainty at a high level, people will follow you, because people can sense when we're passive. People can sense when we don't fully believe in who we are or what we can do or the outcome that we're trying to provide for them. People can sense that. And I don't think people want to follow passive leaders, nor do they want to hire passive coaches. I certainly don't. I know you don't.
No.
Like, we want somebody that believes that they can take us where we want to go. And it's really more of an energy sort of thing. I think we show up intellectually and we think if we can prove to them something, or if we can impress them with our knowledge, then they'll hire us. But I'm sure you've had this happen. I'm sure almost everybody who's watching this video will have been in a conversation, whether it's with a coach or some other kind of context, and everything sounded right, you know, checked all the boxes, but for some reason it was just like an energetic no. And you might not even understand why. It might not make sense to the unconscious mind, but there was just some sort of energetic repulsion. And that's what happens with a lot of coaches. And I know we've talked about this in a few different videos and much more in private conversation, that the amount of certified coaches without clients is shocking. And I don't say that to make fun of people. It's just that getting a degree in the coaching world doesn't lead to clients necessarily. It's this conviction that is much deeper than just confidence, right? It's certainty all across the board. It's like deep belief in what's possible. And what's possible is usually, the conviction in what's possible is usually because you've experienced it before.
Mm-hmm.
That's the piece that so many people don't understand, is that our intellect cannot give us that level of conviction, but our bodies can. When we know what it's like to overcome a limiting belief of not being good enough, or we know what it's like to actually touch happiness for the first time, or we know what it's like to dream again for the first time in years and years and years because we went through the process of transformation, then that's where our conviction comes from. Our conviction comes from us touching what it feels like to overcome an obstacle. It's not from our intellectual vault of information about what we theoretically think it's going to be like, or what we hope somebody is going to believe in. That kind of confidence at a rooted, deeply embedded, embodied level cannot be resisted. It cannot be denied individually, and it cannot be resisted by other people. People just go, I don't know what it is, but whatever you're on, I want some of that. I know you've hired coaches for that reason, or you've followed people for that reason. I've hired most of my coaches for some level of that piece right there. I don't know what it is that you're doing or what I'm not doing, but I want that.
Yeah.
And that kind of energetic attraction is so critical. And most people just don't have that level of knowingness. It's not knowledge, it's knowing. I don't think we've created a distinction between those two before. Knowledge is what you have in your mind. Knowing is what you have in your body. And right? Where's the bell? Beep, 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 beep. I put it in the other room. I don't have it. When we have knowledge in our mind, we're in the realm of doubt. That's where our doubts are. That's where our fears are. But when we have knowingness in our body, we are speaking the language and experiencing the feelings of certainty. And I think there are three main areas that we need certainty in. We need certainty in ourselves. Part of what I've been talking about, like, I know this process. I know my journey. Nobody can take that away from me. But when our knowledge is just in our head, people can go, I don't know if that's going to work. And then if we don't have that level of certainty, then we can start to believe them. We can start to go, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it doesn't work. But you can't tell me I didn't feel the way I felt getting up off the piano bench in the crowded hotel lobby. You can't tell me that, because my body has it inside of the knowingness. And the knowledge in our head is so often just based on theory. But the knowingness is based on truth, and it's based on the path that we have walked. So that's part of this self-conviction, this self-embodied knowingness. And then the second piece of this level of knowingness is in the skills that you've acquired, which are generally related to the process that you went through. I mean, a lot of coaches had this massive personal breakthrough. Most successful coaches that I know this is your journey, and we talk about this all the time in a lot of our programs. The most successful coaches that we know are the ones who had a full embodied experience and then said, I don't know what happened there, but the world needs to feel this and I need to learn that. Whatever it was that I experienced, I need to learn that. So when our skill knowledge comes from our personal experience, now we've got the foundation and the fuel, to your point earlier, to give people this feeling that is so real to us. And we just got to figure out how to pass it on. That sort of flow through commitment is critical. And too many coaches don't have it. If your goal as a coach is just to make money, especially if it's based on some sort of incompetence belief, like I'm not good enough, but if I can make a lot of money, then I'll feel better. Or I don't have a lot of money now, but if I could do that, then I'll feel better about myself, or I'll impress other people, or I just want to prove to somebody that I can really do something. All of that is intellectual surface level motivation, but it's not this deep knowing of whatever it is that I'm feeling. People need to know, because that taps us into the service fuel. And most of us will be much more committed to serving others than to serving ourselves. And then that brings us to the third piece, others. You've got to have certainty in your seeker. You got to have certainty in the people that you are wanting to serve, but even more than that, especially from a marketing standpoint, we'll get into that later, but the people who are seeking the lessons that you already have learned, because your lessons will answer their questions. Your lessons will answer their questions. That right there, I just felt it in my body when I even said that. Like, I've never come across somebody who has the fear of answering people's questions in an area that they feel good about, that they feel certain about. But we hear the fears of marketing all the time, and the fears of selling, and the fears of visibility, and the fear of getting on video, and the fear of starting a YouTube channel, and the fear of making the wrong choice. But nobody has the fear of helping people with the lessons that they've learned. That's the fuel that you alluded to earlier, that has to come from an embodied place in order for other people to feel it energetically, and in order for us to have the rooted passion and power to get back up when we get knocked down. And we will get knocked down. But if our motivation is just coming from an intellectual place to get up and make money, chances are we're not going to get back up very quickly. If we do, it'll take us a while before we take another shot. But unfortunately, a lot of people actually don't ever get back up. And I think the coaching graveyard is full of a lot of people who never really touched that level of conviction. You want to add anything before I get into the second piece?
It's actually taking very intentional effort for me to stay in my chair, like, and not be up in the air. It's the feeling, right? So if the feeling is in me, and then that drive of other people have to feel this. So now I'm going to get the skills so that other people can feel this. It's
so
not about,
that exactly
right. It's not about chasing the certificate or looking to be smart or sound however good or anything like that. It's all about the feeling. I'm doing this so that other people can feel this. I'm trying to find that seeker, that person who's looking for that feeling, who's seeking that feeling. And that energy for me just shifts how I would go about studying the skill set and going about practicing, because it's really about how can I get this? How can I get that? How can I get that in them? How can I get get them to create that within themselves? And that's just a different drive. And the piece that you said about the intellect, every time you said that word, I just kept thinking about what you said earlier, which is that's where all the fears and doubts live. So every time we go there, of course, we're not going to get back up, because everything that's in there is telling us to stay down. So we have to be driven by the body, and then use the intellect, as you alluded to when we talk about the strategy in a little bit.
Everything in there is telling us to stay down. Yeah, that's the key, because the doubts that we have and our intellect are really based on not failing. And the not version of motivation can be influential for sure. The avoidance of failure or the avoidance of embarrassment or the avoidance of feeling stupid or whatever is influential. It's massively influential. So influential that it causes us to not get back up. It causes us to stay down. But our desire to help that person over there who's waiting for us or searching for us or calling us, but can't find us because they need the lessons that we've learned based on this feeling, and we want them to have that feeling, that power or that drive overpowers the intellectual desire to stay down and avoid failure so much more, because our hearts want to make an impact and our heads are just afraid of failing. So the second piece here, thanks for adding all that. Yeah. And I know you're having a hard time staying in your chair because it's real. All this stuff is real. It's the same thing we're talking about, right? So the second thing internally here is to use that passion with curiosity. Transformational coaching especially is really about asking questions. It's not about bringing information into people, very similar to what I was just talking about, that it's not about the intellect, that we collect in our head. It's understanding that the transformation happens through the process of uncovering and discovering, through the process of untangling, right? Untying the knots. And that kind of inside out approach to transformation doesn't happen with us taking our viewpoints of the world or our lessons and just putting it on people. It's us taking those lessons and informing questions that pulls it out of people. That's the big distinction. Instead of putting things on people, we want to pull things out of people. And it's not only is it just lazy to be more committed to putting things on people than pulling things out of people, but it's a disservice to them, because if we are continually giving them our answers to their problems instead of asking them to find their own and facilitating this process of them coming alive with their own realizations, then we're actually creating dependency for them. We're not creating empowerment. We're creating disempowerment if we're bringing our Band-Aid and trying to cover up their boo-boos, right? Don't Band-Aid their boo-boos. Now, there are times when we want to offer possibilities to clients, for sure. There are times when we want to share analogies, we want to share metaphors, we want to share stories. So I'm not saying that we don't bring all of that in, but most of the time, I would say 95% of the time, I'm not giving anybody my answers. I'm asking questions based on my lessons so that they can come up with their own answers. And sometimes it's just a matter of language. I might tell them to remember that life is about happiness, because that's the lesson that I learned. But if I ask questions, they might say through self-discovery, life is about joy. And just the word joy coming out of them versus happy coming out of me could make all the difference in the world. Because you don't want your clients to be going, now, what did Michelle say? What was that thing that she told me that I didn't want to remember, or I didn't want to forget? So she told me to, remember this thing. No, we want the clients to go, oh yeah, that's right. Life is about joy. And when they have this self-discovery, the words that they'll find are coming from inside their body. So that means when they're not on the phone with us, their bodies are carrying this around, because this is based on their memories. This is based on the lessons they've learned in their lives. This is based on their experiences in the past. And so we want to help them find what will give them these shifts through their own embodied understanding of the world, rather than, here, let me solve your problems. with my answers. And usually that's coming from a place of the ego desiring to sound smart, or our desire to really help people, but not recognizing that our desire to help people can hurt people. Not like physically hurt them or usually emotionally hurt them, but it can hurt them in the sense that we're disempowering them if we don't give them something that they will remember later. And so often, I know you see this all the time, Michelle, when we're using this curiosity to just sort of go in and explore the breakthroughs and the shifts and the smiles that people get and the holy beep, right? Like those kinds of moments are, first of all, so powerful for us as coaches to see, but it really shifts their bodies. And it's rare that something we put onto somebody will have the same kind of a shift. The shifts need to come from internal, like the depths of their internal reality to usually provide those kinds of shifts. And the good news is that mostly comes from our ferocious curiosity, just being like a child, understanding a lot about human development and behavior and all the things that you want to learn as you study the essence of transformational coaching that will inform your questions. But really, coaching is about asking questions and seeing what you can uncover and what you can help other people uncover so that their challenges, their problems, their beliefs, their fears can just dissolve. I mean, I don't know that I've had that much clarity as I'm having now. When we attack something from the inside, that's when things can just melt away so fast. But when we're seeking, or we as coaches are giving external solutions, it doesn't have anywhere near the same effect. So just to be clear, again, I'm not saying that we'll never offer advice or never offer suggestions or never give our clients like a buffet of possibilities to think about. And sometimes our clients are just so stuck that they need a question answered. All of that is totally fine. But if you're more committed to your client's internal and empowered and embodied breakthrough, you'll use more questions and you'll be more silent than you give answers and talk. That's the power of childlike curiosity.
Mhm.
You don't have any experience with any of that, though, do you?
No, my cheeks hurt. I'm grinning so much. Ah, I wrote down the word disempowered shortly after you started speaking. It also, for me, it felt invalidating when other people were giving me their answers and giving me their solutions. Like, the story that I would create, right, is that I'm so dumb and obviously I can't figure this out and I'm helpless and hopeless without, like, please help me, tell me where to go and what to do, because I obviously am so much an idiot that I can't figure this out. And so there's a lot of people, I'm believing that I'm not the only human that has felt that way before. And so there are a lot of people out there that feel that way. And so when we can let them know, man, that they can do it, that it comes from them, the word that I wrote down, it's precious. Like, it's so pure and just, it's just precious. And
Yeah.
I love what you talked about when we ignite that fire from within and then everything dissolves versus coming at it and trying to chip it away from the outside. The other thing that I want to address, because this is such a powerful thing, is that I don't know is exciting. Like, this is a beautiful place to be like, I genuinely don't know, and let's find out. Right? I don't know how you're holding on to this, but let's find out and let's explore, and really being okay and comfortable with not knowing, because I couldn't know, because I'm not you, I'm me, and I don't have your experiences. So let's explore your stories and your patterns and your behaviors. Let's explore that together with this pure curiosity. That's why the word childlike, I love that you use that, because there's an innocence to that, not an aggressive, like, attacky kind of questioning, it's genuinely like, wow, why is the sky blue? Like, I really want to know. And that energetic come from, man, it's just, it's really, it seems like magic.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the let's find out piece, I think, is really critical, which generally will come from your own personal experiences because you've been over those humps or you've gotten through whatever the issues are. And I think we have a fear of not knowing. I know we have a fear of not knowing, many of us, probably most of us, because not knowing the answer to a question or not knowing the right decision to make or just not knowing something, anything, means we're stupid. It doesn't really mean that we're stupid. It just means we're ignorant, maybe because we don't know, which is the essence of that word. But us feeling stupid is something that so many of us are going to try to avoid at all costs. We don't want to feel stupid. And when we don't know the answer to something, what we'll generally do is just shut down and not try. So the let's find out piece, especially as a coach, when somebody else is struggling with, I don't know, so let's shut down. And the coach says, well, I don't know, so let's find out. That's extremely valuable. And again, the clients can feel that energy, that it's okay to not know. It's actually exciting, as you said, to not know, because that means we're going into uncharted territory. And if you want anything new in your life, you can't follow the same old recipes. It's impossible. So that curiosity on top of the personal conviction is huge. And then the third piece is commitment. And it's commitment on one level to the unknown, commitment to exploring, commitment to the feeling that you have in your body and the feeling that you want to give to other people. And that commitment needs to be whatever it takes, conditionless commitment. And the truth is, most of us are conditionally committed. We're committed to something if we're committed to our personal development journey, if it doesn't cost a lot of money, or if it's going to be short, or if it's going to be easy, or if it looks the same as somebody else's journey, or if it looks the same as our expectations of it. Most of us have these conditions that override our commitment. And I just don't know very many people who had conditional commitment and they achieved anything really big, right? Because the conditions are usually based on our current comfort zones, which means our commitment is only okay inside of our comfort zone. And so if our commitment is inside of our comfort zone, how far can we go? Right? I mean, I don't know if you're triggered around whatever like that means in your life or what have you, but why'd that just make you laugh so much?
Because it's ridiculous. Like, it's absolutely absurd. Like, when to hear
Right.
you say it that way is just, it's ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it makes all the sense in the world to all of our fears, right? Like, of course we want to grow, but just like, don't take me out of anywhere I've already been.
Yeah.
You know, of course we want all of our dreams to come true, but as long as they come true on the roads of familiarity that we are comfortable with, right? It is ridiculous. And it makes sense when we understand how our fears operate. And these conditions are essentially permission to quit.
Oh.
So, so if we have the condition that we're all in unless it costs a lot of money, and we have an opportunity that costs more money than that condition, well, then we've already given ourselves permission to quit at that one line. Or a lot of our permission to quit is unconscious. We don't want to feel certain things. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to, we don't want to confront. That's not the word I'm looking for, but risk. We don't want to risk losing relationships. We don't want to risk gaining a lot of money or a lot of notoriety or anything else that might threaten our ideas of what a good person is or what other people might think of us. So we have these conditional commitments that are really based on and protected by our ego and our identities. And so if we hit the bumps in the road and we've got conditions that say it's okay to quit when it gets hard, it's okay to quit when you don't know the answers, it's okay to quit when you've wasted, quote unquote, wasted a certain amount of money or a certain amount of time, or it's okay to quit if fill in the blank. The problem with that is then the mind starts looking for, when can I quit? So if we have a line that says you can quit when you hit this ceiling, the truth is you'll probably quit a lot sooner than that, because your mind is basically wanting to quit, especially when something gets uncomfortable. Your mind doesn't want to quit, it just wants the discomfort to stop. But if we don't know what's on the other side of that ceiling, or what's on the other side of the wall, if we don't have personal experience or we're not borrowing somebody else's commitment to us or conviction in us, then it's almost impossible to keep going, honestly. That's my experience. It's almost impossible for the human to travel an uncomfortable journey alone and keep going. It's just not the way our brain works. And so if we can understand what those conditions are, which are almost always going to be based on our past, it's going to be based on our parents, it's going to be based on our siblings, it's going to be based on our education, it's going to be based on our cultural inputs or the media that we see, it's going to be based on our heroes and our mentors, it's going to be based on all these external inputs of programming usually that give us the permission to quit and when to quit. So when we identify what the conditions are, then of course we can lean into them and we can challenge them. Because if the condition for your breakthrough is that it has to be easy, let's say, then you can ask yourself, what's more important to me? Evolving in this thing called life, or staying on the road called easy? Or if the condition is a certain dollar amount, like I don't want to pay for that. That's like $2,000. Okay, well, how much are your dreams worth? If your dreams are not worth $2,000, then please hold on to that commitment, because that's actually smart. But most of the time, these conditions are not actually more valuable than the things that we want. It's just we stay focused on what we're afraid of and we stay focused on the discomfort, and we don't ever actually become aware of the measurable conditions that we have. So obviously, us as coaches, if you're wanting to build a business, it's critical that you become aware of those conditions so that you can confront them and you can do whatever you need to do to get rid of them. And then us as coaches for our clients, we want to do the same thing. What are your conditions on your commitment? And then we can remove the fears that are creating the conditions. We can do whatever other transformational work there is, or sometimes just understanding that I've put a $5 price tag on a priceless dream. Just that right there creates a shift in people. You know, like, how dare I put a price tag on my purpose? How dare I put a price tag on my happiness? How dare I put a price tag on what I want my children to experience, or my spouse to experience, or what I want my inner child to see me do, or my inner child to experience on this planet? How dare I put a price on that? And the price isn't always financial. Usually it's more around energy and failure. I think some people have like a failure limit. You know, I'll go all in after my dreams as long as I don't have to fail more than 3 times, right? If I could have the 3 or less failure route, then I'm all in on my dreams. And I don't mean to make light of that, like, you know, we're doing it intentionally, because of course we're not. It doesn't mean that you're dumb or that you're not committed. It's like, this is the way our mind works and this is the way we're programmed. And unconsciously, most of us have a ceiling for failure. But at our soul's level, most of what we want to experience in our life is way higher than our mind's ceiling for failure that we don't want to experience. Permission to quit.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. What are your conditions for quitting? Not just for commitment, right?
Yeah.
And the key word that stood out to me in that, Sean, was unconscious. That's why I think it's really important, honestly, to bring the levity and bring the humor and really shine a light on what is actually happening and answer those questions. I've answered those questions. I believe you've answered those questions as well. Like, what? Okay, so let's get it out. What are the conditions?
Oh,
Let's
people don't like those questions.
No, not at all. That's a lot of like cuss words, hang up the phone on your coach moments. But with so much like I respect my fears. So let me have respect enough for them to bring them into the conscious, and then let's look at the commitment as well. And what are my
Right.
conditions there? Because then if I can see it, and the questions that you asked about, all right, so how much are my dreams actually worth? And honestly, I would rather have a client say, you know what, no, it's not worth it, and make the conscious intentional decision to quit
Yeah.
versus operating at an unconscious level, which keeps them in a place of being disempowered and feeling like they don't have any control. So I'm all about, let's shine the conscious flashlight. Let's bring it to the surface, and if it's real, let's identify it.
Yeah. Conscious quitting. There's nothing wrong with conscious quitting. I think the
Mm,
most successful people do quit consciously,
yes.
but not unconsciously.
Mhm.
When you talked about the hanging up the phone, I just had a memory. I don't know how long it was ago. It was a long time ago. It was probably my first few years of coaching. I was talking to a woman about her temper, and she would explode on her daughter. I think it was her daughter, often. And she was telling me about this one time where I don't remember how old her daughter was right now, 6, 7, 8, something like that. I'm thinking. And her daughter spilled some kind of juice, some kind of dark juice on this really expensive rug. And so my client, her mom, the daughter's mom, was telling me, she's so whatever word she was using. She's so careless, or she needs to learn how to pay more attention, or whatever it was. So she told me this story. Like, I got the sense that she was proud of the story. Like, I taught her, like she'll never do that again, kind of thing. And one of the things she said is that rug or carpet, whatever it was $2,000. And immediately I shot back, how much is your daughter's self-esteem worth? Right. Yeah. That was her response as well. Right. She didn't like that question. And then she started crying. And then she realized that unconsciously her anger got the better of her. And in that moment, her love for her daughter was conditional. Maybe not at a deep, deep level, because she would have said, I still love her. But what about from her daughter's perspective? Does it feel like you love me? If you're unloading on me because I spilled something, I'm 7. Like, it's kind of like, I didn't mean to, that she didn't just pour the stuff out. She was a 7-year-old doing what 7-year-olds do. But in that moment, the mom realized that she apparently must have had conditions that when her daughter crossed, she would get all of this anger. And so it wasn't a fun conversation, but it was a really important one. Obviously, I haven't forgotten it in all these years. And it's followed me around in my parenting journey as well. How many times I've felt the urge to unload on my kids, or to get angry at my wife, or get angry at myself, or get angry at, somebody driving in the street, right? Whatever it is, like road rage. And it's this idea that my desire to live a certain way, my desire to have my kids feel a certain way about me, my desire to have my clients feel a certain way. There's something more important than whatever this trigger condition obviously was. And it's as you said, it's moving it into consciousness that is so critical. So let's dive into the three external pieces of success. And this is going to go a little quicker because your details are going to depend on your individual journey.
Mm.
And if any of you want support from us about what those details are for your individual journey, then click the link below this video, or you can go to coachshansmith.com/book my call and get on the phone with us. We do free consultations to help people recognize what their next step is. So there are a lot of details that are dependent on variables, right? But we want to give you this framework of what external success is as a coach. And primarily this is marketing. That's what is going to make your business work, is marketing. And there are three main components to marketing. I want to keep this really simple because I think we tend to get too complicated with our understanding of or our chasing of marketing principles and marketing rules. And from a client's perspective, understanding the seeker piece that I talked about earlier, to the seeker, your message must be consumable and it must be marketable. So what you do in marketing your business is going to be hugely dependent on who your seeker is. I don't know how many times somebody's asked me the question, like, what's my first step if building a coaching business? I'm like, who are you coaching? It depends, right? Should I do Facebook ads? I don't know. Is your seeker on Facebook? Should I do Instagram? Should I do Pinterest? Should I offer a free download? I don't know. Who's your person and what do they want? I think too many people stay focused on what they want to teach as a coach instead of opening up to what people want to learn, which is the curiosity piece that we talked about earlier. So when it comes to marketing, there are three main ingredients that come together and create success in a coaching business. Now, how long it takes, I don't know. But if you're in it for the long haul, it'll usually show up for you sooner. But if you're demanding that it goes really fast, it'll usually be way, way more delayed than it needs to be. And all of this is under the context of what it is that you are trying to do with your business, or what are you trying to accomplish with your business? What do you want your business to provide for you in your life? Do you want time freedom? Do you want more money? Do you just want to make a difference? You know, your business is a structure to create the life that you want to live. And we got to start with you. If we don't start with you and we just try to fit your purpose on this planet and your goals and your desires into some one size fits all approach, then if it works for you, it's just accidental, because those recipes weren't made with you in mind. So we have to understand, what is it that your business needs to create in your life for you to feel like it's successful. And too often we're given the rules of success or the targets of success by other people. So if your business is 6 figures, then you're successful, or 7 figures, you're successful. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to experience anything that you want to experience. So assuming that we know what your business purpose umbrella is, then there are 3 main components. And the first one is, who's your who? So who's your person? Who's the one that you're wanting to serve? And I say this all the time, your most valuable business asset is your seeker's perspective, how they view the world. What do they really want? What are they afraid of? What have they tried before? What do they trust? What do they no longer trust? What do they cry themselves to sleep at night thinking about? What would they write a blank check for? If you understand your seeker's perspective of the world, they'll write your entire business plan for you. They'll say, sell me this and tell me that I will experience that and I'll pay you this. They'll literally tell you everything if you get into their perspective as much as possible. So the first piece here, the first P is person. The second thing is, what's the point? What are we doing here? What's the point of your product or your service or whatever it is that you're offering people? What's their point? What is it that your thing will allow them to experience? People are not looking for hypnosis. They're looking for something to be hypnotized out of them or hypnotized into them. They'll pay for the outcome. The hypnosis is the tool, or the neurolinguistic programming is the tool, or whatever the skill set that you learned as a coach, that's the tool. People don't pay for the tools. People pay for the outcome of the tool. So what's the point? What's the benefit that your thing is going to give your seeker? What are the feelings that they're going to get? And again, they'll tell you if you pay attention, but you got to speak to them in beneficial terms. And the more specific you can be, the more attractive it will be. The more attractive the product will be if you're specific in what the outcome is. So if you tell them, if you're in the weight loss world, if you tell them that following a certain plan will give them the feeling that they had at their most athletic point in their life, let's say, or this formula allows most people to shed 7 pounds over the first 2 months or the first 2 weeks, you know, if you're selling a cleanse or something, whatever it is, put specificity on it as much as possible, because the mind likes specific outcomes. Don't promise something that you can't deliver, but there are always specifics that you can add on to the purpose or the benefit of your product. And I would say I don't know about most of the time, but probably most of the time, we're not good at finding the specific benefits of our own product because we're just too geeked out about the feeling, right? People got to feel this feeling. And then we're like, do my coaching program and you'll just feel hella good. You know, you'll feel awesome. Now, there's nothing wrong with that kind of energy, and put some specificity on top of that, right? So we're fueled by that kind of energy. We are putting out that sort of magnet, and let's give the conscious mind the specificity that it really likes. But if you just do specificity without the energy, then you've got a hollow connection usually, and that's not the way to go. And it's usually not the way that coaches stay excited about doing their work. So who's your person? What's the point? And what's the platform? In other words, where are they? So who's your who, what's the point, and where's your what? Whatever the thing is, where's the platform on social media, or where is the meeting place that you're going to find them? And essentially, that's what marketing comes down to, having the right thing for the right person in the right place. When those three things collide, that's when your business can take off. I call that the clicking point. It took me about, I'd say 7, 8, 9 months of constant, conditionless commitment until I found my clicking point. And I was willing to do what a lot of people are just not willing to do. I was willing to coach for free. I was willing to speak for free. I was willing to make mistakes. I was willing to put websites up. I was willing to try things. I was just fueled by the piano bench moment. And if you don't know what that is, we'll post a link to a video where I explain that a little bit more, or maybe put a card up there or something. I was so committed to giving people the experience, their experience of the piano bench moment, that I was just willing to try a bunch of stuff. I was ignorance on fire. And it took a while if we're taking a look at several months and determining that that's a while. But I was really short if we take a look at what's possible or how long it usually takes most people to never find that clicking point. But after that clicking point, we exploded. The next 8 months, once we found that clicking point, it really happened in January of 2007 when they all started to come together, but it didn't start to be realized, like actualized, until April of 2007, which is when I did that first live event in 2007. And if you want to hear the whole journey, we'll put a link there and a card up there as well to find out the whole journey of that $300,000 year or year and a half. From April to December, we made almost $300,000 in about an 8-month period of time. But my business and I, as the business owner, earned that money the previous 10 months when the money wasn't coming in, but I kept going. When people weren't showing up, but I kept talking. That's when the money was earned. That's when the seeds were planted. And then when they sprouted big time. And most people will not stay to their conditionless commitment, and they won't stay plugged into the curiosity of, I don't know, but let's find out. And they won't have that rooted certainty in the process of whatever your version of the 10-month period is. Could be 10 days for, I'm not going to put that out there. It's not going to be 10 days for almost anybody. Could be, I guess, but it could be 10 weeks. It could be 10 months. It could be longer than that. So I don't know what your details are going to be, but there's this sowing season. And most people's egos will not allow them to stay committed in the sowing season until the reaping starts. But you don't earn the reaping if you're not conditionally or unconditionally committed to the sowing. So, and I don't feel bad saying that. Like, you don't deserve the success if you're not committed to the process that will produce the success. So those are the three pieces. Who's your person? What's the point? And where's the platform that need to come together from a marketing standpoint to take something that's deeply meaningful and turn it into something that's powerfully marketable. And that's where the internal elements of success can meet the external elements of success. And that's where a business can become financially powerful and profitable. And most people will just never make it through the internal game. What you got over there before we wrap up?
Well, I don't think that you found your clicking point. I think that your clicking point found you while you were in motion.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Because the other way is like you're going out and you're looking for your clicking point. But when I hear you tell the story, you weren't looking for your clicking point. You were looking for, how can I get this experience in me? How can I help other people create that? That's what you were looking to do. And then your clicking point was like, hey, Sean, here I am.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That's a really important piece that doesn't match the way that we're programmed in the world. We're programmed in the world to get the directions and then follow the directions. And in this space, when this is about finding your purpose and making an impact and doing the thing and you're the product, we have to be so unconditionally committed to our passion that we'll take that ignorant action, that we'll keep getting up after the failure, and we'll keep getting up after the fears and after we've been knocked down and through the judgment and all the things that most of our egos are afraid of experiencing. We have to prove our commitment to the path before the results show up and before our clicking point, to your point, finds us. And most of the time people are just demanding, like standing still, demanding that all the success come to them. And that's the wrong direction of motion, rather than just stay fueled by the desire to serve people, and then the clicking point will find you.
And have that certainty and that trust, that convicted certainty in the process, right? Instead of planting the seed and then watering the seed and then digging it up to assess if it was the right dirt 5 minutes later, and not actually waiting for anything to get rooted and start to grow. Have that certainty in the, if I do these things, this will happen. And to your point, I don't know when, right? 10 days, 10 months, 10 whatever, who cares? I know that if I do these things, this will happen, and I can be certain in that. And I think that's better, because then when that flower does bloom and your business does bloom and become successful, now it has those roots, that foundation that you spoke to earlier, versus a flower that just, bloomed. If you repot a plant, you know that when you first put it in, before the roots, really dig in and ground themselves, it's unstable. And if a big wind comes by, or if one of my dogs knocks it over, it's coming over because it's not rooted. And in that place, it's dangerous. So it's better, honestly, to not succeed if you don't have that foundation. So I really just hope that people leave this just knowing, just really trust Sean. Man, he has all of these years of experience, and trust in that, and really just believe that if you do these things, this will happen. And I've seen it, I've experienced it personally, and I've seen it time and time again. And it's just beautiful to watch it unfold from the inside out.
Yeah, that's massively important. Again, I'm glad you brought that up. When we can not just trust the process, but define success as following the process, and derive the feeling of success from the process, meaning we feel successful because we're doing the work, not just because somebody's paying us or somebody's hiring us or buying our products. Of course, that's awesome. And when we can feel fulfilled because we're doing the work, that's where our commitment is. Then the tangible success, number one, comes sooner and easier for most people. But number two, when that tangible success does come, we don't slow down, because that's not why we're doing this. So we continue the momentum, because it's cool that somebody just paid for a program. It's cool that somebody just bought a product, but that's not what's driving me. What's driving me is not who's already experienced the piano bench moments, but who hasn't yet. That's who I want to be committed to.
Subscribe to the channel.
And subscribe to the channel. If you made it this far, then
might as well.
Might as well, right? You might as well. If you've spent this amount of time with us, then spend the rest of your years with us as well. So subscribe, and you'll get notified every time we publish a video. If you like this video, check out that video where I broke down the soft skills you need to succeed as a coach and a mentor. So a lot of people are deriving their confidence as a coach from their skill set. That's a huge mistake. Of course, your skill set is important,